And it appears I am streaming.
You're good. You're coming up, Mark B, on my end.
This is just YouTube now?
No, it should be all.
It should be
Should
everybody?
be all. Yep, should be all of them.
Okay, so hopefully
Yep.
we're back because
I
I'm
saw Twitch.
having major issues on my end with streaming. So this is why we had a backup and a backup to the backup. So we're now on backup number one. Mark Bosley has picked up the stream, and thank you for doing that, Mark. And I
have already
apologize.
lost internet once already today.
Yeah, I
I'm
apologize,
here.
Nigel. We got interrupted right in the middle of your segment. We were kind of getting into questions and answers for Nigel, who's the MAME developer for the Dragon. And I think the last thing we were talking about was the MSX2 board, getting that emulated for the Dragon and MAME. And then a few questions were starting to happen, and then all hell broke loose. So do we want to finish that last round of questioning on the emulating anything MAME-wise, Dragon-wise in MAME? Anyone on the panel? Anyone?
Well, there's one question. I don't know if that got out of the air about the MSX2 plus emulation, or super spread, I guess I should call it now, emulation working on the CoCo side of things. And you said, Nigel, that it should work, but it hasn't been tested yet.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in that board that has to do with like the PAL 50 hertz timing versus 60 hertz timing or anything like that, right?
It's got its own video output.
So that should be groovy.
So it's
then.
independent of the machine that's running on
Yeah.
as far as.
Yeah. Let me just see on my TV right now if I'm getting because I was trying to watch this on my TV. I have to go over to
Yeah, it's coming through
CoCo.
fine here. I'm watching the Twitch stream.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. All right, well, thank you for that, Nigel. And actually, Nigel, you were the last of a block of three. So we were going to take a commercial break. Technically, we kind of had a break, but we were trying to fix what was broken during our break. So
That's why we call it a break.
yeah, so we're gonna. The next thing after our break is going to be Pere Serrat could not be with us in person, but he's been mentioned favorably many times by many of the panels so far because he's done so much for the community. So he recorded a presentation for us that we'll see after this. So I'm going to go ahead and set up commercial number two because all that content was sent to us from Tim Gilberts. And so Tim had recorded some stuff, which you'll see here in a minute. But if you want, Mark B, if you want to just run commercial break number two, and then when we come back, switch back to the main scene for a second, and then we'll play Pere Serrat's presentation. Does that work?
Yep, works for me. All right.
All
here we
right,
go.
thanks.
Okay, so it's Tim reporting live from the, lively from the Dragon Factory for CoCo Talk Live, or as it is this week, Dragon Talk Live. The Dragon may not have had great big flashy advertising on television, but this is Personal Computer World, February 1983, so a couple of months after the Dragon was first announced, and of course it's got the classic double-page colour spread that the big computer magazines did. Not sure about its appropriateness, that I do say here that if you're one of our many lady readers, perhaps please accept our apologies. Perhaps you'd like to read this ad to your husband. So there we go. The Dragon advertised in Personal Computer World. And of course, who wouldn't have kept the insert that was provided for the Dragon 32 that covered all sorts of things about it with full colour, multi-page leaflet all about the Dragon 32. Yeah. Lovely pictures. So that's what made you really, really want a Dragon 32 back then, isn't it? Who could look at that and not want to get one with all its specifications on the back and that brilliant picture? And of course, for those of an American persuasion, we did have Tandys, but the reality is Radio Shack Tandy was just a bit player once Maplin turned up on the scene in the late 70s. This is their 1984 Buyer's Guide to Electronics Components on Home Computers. I mean, they got a massive Heathkit section as well, but here I've tagged a page. I mean, it's a huge, absolutely stuffed full of things relating to computers and engineering. And of course, the Dragon features big and bold with its disk drive, loads of software, and there are literally pages and pages of adverts for games and programs for the Dragon. It's quite impressive. And they cover the Commodore 64 and the Atari as well, but lesser computers just out of place, didn't it? So Maplins, everyone will remember that from the UK, I suspect.
And we're back. And I'm not even pointing to Zoom properly. Hang on. My views are out of order.
You're out of order.
All right. So ready for the presentation?
Yeah, you're going to share the screen where we can all hear it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Ciara. So our next presenter is Pere Serrat.
Hi, this is Pere Serrat from Barcelona, Spain. I became interested in computing at the end of the 70s using a Texas Instruments 58C programmable calculator. Then came the boom of the microcomputers, and in 2 years you could choose among a lot of brands. I chose the Dragon 32 because it was solid rock. The keyboard was an important factor, and the commercials were very good at not telling us the truth, as usual. 8 colors and 256 by 192 pixels resolution were a very interesting choice not to be missed. Soon we discovered that there were important limits and had to live with just P-Mode 3. Quickly I added to the computer a double disk drive and a printer, a powerful setup back then. Soon I changed it to Dragon 64 and bought the CompuSense Dragon Plus board to have 128K machine that worked flawlessly with OS 9, with Stylograph Dynacalc and Basic 09 at 80 columns. Projects I did back then. I designed a MIDI interface for my Yamaha DX21 keyboard and wrote the drivers to save float files with MIDI events, allowing me to play back while changing tempo and other params. Another project was a word processor I programmed in assembler for my father, who was a poet, to help him save his works and print them out. This was very challenging, but was a good way to learn assembler. I unassembled a music player that allowed for 3 voices, and once understood the way it worked, I changed it to 6 voices just to prove it could be done. Later, I built a cartridge with the assembler encoder 09 ROM and a momentary switch that sent a not maskable interrupt to the Dragon to stop any program that was running after loading. That way, I started the encoder 09 and I could analyze the RAM contents. Most of the time, I worked on games that came in tape format to save them into discs. Yes, this means that almost in all cases there was some kind of protection that needed to be broken. So again, a nice challenge. Doing so, some friends came to me with his new tapes so that I could pass these games to disc. A good way to have quite a lot of games for my children. I resisted to change to the PCs for a very long time thanks to the OS 9 I used to create the monthly magazine for my children's school and to write articles about games and programming while I was collaborating with 3 Spanish electronics and computing magazines. Finally, the PC evolved enough to force me to do that step I was so reluctant to do. Very soon I began to work on computers for a living, and this lasted till my retirement, so I must say that the Dragon helped me to work in something I really loved by converting a hobby into a daily job. A few years before retirement, I began to look for a Dragon 64 computer to remind those old days. I got one and entered World of Dragon web and RetroWiki groups where I found a lot of computer enthusiasts. My comeback turned to be very hard. I didn't remember a word about the 6809, but I was lucky enough to meet Steve Evans, who helped me a lot to raise my assembler to a decent level again. New projects. I programmed a server on the PC in Java that allowed me to send files by the serial port from the PC to the Dragon. I programmed a client application on the Dragon to talk to the server. The goal was backing up disks from the PC in virtual format to Dragon physical floppies. It needed some 4 to 8 minutes for a disk depending on the size. The last mode I did allowed the Dragon to load and run binary files right from the server, much like DriveWire, something that I didn't know anything about it yet. Then I met Tormod Volden and Ken. They introduced me into the world of DriveWire. We created programs that could be uploaded from the PC server and did something of use for the Dragon users. I created a few dwips, the name Tormod invented for these programs, one to load and execute ROMs, and others to copy disks from the server to the Dragon and the other way around. Some to help work with virtual disks, say one to see the contents like a dir command, and another to load run a file from the BDK to the Dragon. I bought a CoCo SDC for my CoCo 3 and thought that this ease of use had to be possible on the Dragon too. So I began to program my DOS Plus 5.0 extended to allow users to connect to a DriveWire server and get rid of the floppies if they would like. Once this worked fine, Ken told me to add some commands to the BASIC to manage the SD card, as it was possible on the CoCo 3. I contacted Ciaran Anscomb, who kindly sent me the communications protocol to talk to the SDC microcontroller, and helped me design a few subroutines to detect the hardware installed in my Tandy MPI connected to my Dragon 64. This led to the DP50 extended that is widely used by Dragon Tano users. Next project was the conversion of the Orchestra 90 ROM for the Dragon. Main issues were the keyboard differences, the sound processing, and the disk management that is totally different in these machines. Tony Jewell solved the keyboard issue, and Stewart Orchard the sound processing, allowing the use of the orchestra cartridge or the internal DAC. I programmed the disk functions with the help of Stewart, who is a real guru of these machines, not only software but also hardware. In the Dragon Retro Wiki group, I found a thread with people brainstorming about the Hobbit game, analyzing it so that it could be converted for the Dragon. I entered this group and began to learn Z80 assembler code. Finally, with the help of some advanced users, I ended programming the whole game for the Dragon CoCo machines, making it compatible with some different DOS versions. And I had the chance to work with Simon Jonathan on 2 different experimental projects, and some more later. The first one being the abuse of PAL artifacted colors. We ended showing 24 different solid colors on a P-Mode 3 screen. The second project was a full screen rotator in P-Mode 3. To test it, I used the Microdell's Cadbury Mage. In RetroWiki, someone said that it was not possible to create an adventure game on the Dragon using a graphic mode moving a character around the screen. The film Tiburon Shark was selected to be programmed. I got the drawings of the characters' frames and scenes from an excellent designer and began to translate them into sprites, and the result was a short game that can be finished in half an hour or so. In this game, I made for the very first time sprite movements even behind objects and added a wave player for effects. Simon Jonathan created the 2 voices music player. When the CoCo Flash appeared, I got one and began to program a system to load programs, binary, basic, and ROM. I created for it a menu to choose any to play with. After some changes suggested by Jim Bryan, the project didn't see the light, mostly because the procedure to load games in the flash memory was considered too complicated for users. My CoCo Flash module contains all of the Dragon and CoCo cartridge I have, and once connected to a computer, it shows to the user only the games that can be run on that machine. Of course, you had entered that info when loading them into Flash. But one module can be connected to any of our 6809 computers. It's a pity that no one has wanted to give it a try. This demonstrates one more time that users only want working products that might be used out of the case, not tools that require some involvement. Another disk-related program was the conversion of the Infocom Adventure Games engine to the Dragon. This engine works natively with the floppies without calling those subroutines. So again, I created something I called Mini-DOS. I made 2 versions, one for standard 32-column mode and another one for the CoCo VGA using the 64 columns by converting part of the work that Ed Snyder had done for the CoCos. Then I met Kees van Oos, who was converting the AGD engine for the Atom computer, and somehow I got involved in that project and began the conversion for the 6809 machines, again suffering Z80 assembler code. Once done, I created a production chain of tools and converted 219 games. Currently, I have almost 30 more games to be converted, but believe me, I have no time for that. Anyway, I promise I will do that in the future. When the CoCo VGA appeared, I got one and converted as many programs as I found to make it work on the Dragon. To work with 64 columns, the basic must be patched, so only 64K machines can benefit that option. Brendan Donahy helped me a lot, giving me technical advice and information. El Coris Boyle has been upgrading some CoCo games to take advantage of the Hitachi 6309, and he sent to me the virtual disk in both versions, 6809, 6309. I converted them, changing the keyboard routines and modifying the ROM calls so that the correct ones for the Dragon are used. The last project is the AGD engine port for the new module by John Whitworth that comes with the video chip V9958 and sound chips YM2149 and YM2413, typical in the old MSX2 Plus machines. By now, I have 6 AGD games converted. Here, the conversion is more involved than the previous for the MC6847, but little by little we will be increasing the number of converted games. In this project, I have had the invaluable help of a RetroWiki friend, Jose Luis Tur, who has converted the AGD engine for the MSX1 machines and was doing the same for MSX2 machines, so he shared a lot of ideas and code with me. For John's module, I have programmed some demos to show the color palettes and verify the video memory, some 192K machine, plus some programs to show images streamed right from the CoCo SDC in different graphic modes. I programmed a standalone PT3 player for small tunes that use 3 sound channels like the General Instruments AY38910 chip that we can listen on the YM2149. In fact, this was part of the AGD converted engine that supports sound and music. For the YM2413, an OPL2 chip, I programmed a player that reads files from disks, so the maximum length of the files is about 27 kilobytes, because they are loaded into low RAM and must work on D32 machines too. Another program streams from the SDC to the video RAM and then plays it back, so widening the file length to 128K. The very last project is the conversion of Ed Snyder's CoCo chiptunes player for the Dragon. Once done, I have added a few features like more navigation options and a choice to play all of the tracks of the game in sequence. To test that, I have converted lots of VGM files to the chiptunes format using a Java app I made. This version uses a circular buffer that is filled in the wait commands, so there is no limit to the length of the streamed files. Bye bye.
I love it. If we could get everybody to unmute and let's collectively give Pere Serrat a huge round of applause for everything he's done. He couldn't be here with us in person today, but he did pre-record. I mean, hey. That was a 12-minute presentation that covered 10,000 projects. This man is a machine. And we talked about Ed Snyder being a Cylon. This guy is a Cylon, and he's engaged everybody in all aspects of the community. He's touched things and he's brought us so many things. So thank you, Pere Serrat, for all you have done and continue to do for us. And since we did have a 3-minute block for questions and answers, we can't really ask him any questions because he's not here. Does anybody just want to share some stories on some interactions you've had with him, or just say thank you for what he's done or anything like that? We got a little bit of time, by all means.
To reiterate, I don't think the Super Sprite project would have happened properly without Per. He's done so much for it, and the software that he's mentioned at the end of that video, like the chip tunes, that's what you heard. It's just legendary. And the first time I heard that, the tunes dropped from that 2413, I think it was Final Fantasy, and I posted a YouTube video. It blew me away. It's just amazing. So it's one thing doing the hardware, but you need people to use it, and he's a legend. It's great.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, and I can vouch, like when I did the 609 optimizations and some 609 optimizations on, I don't know, what is it, about 7 or 8 CoCo games. He asked if he could have them so we could convert them to Dragon, because a lot of those had not been converted to Dragon. He literally had those done like within a day or two of me sending them to him. It took him less time to convert the keyboard matrix, even added some extra options on them than took me to do the original patches. So he is a machine. But it's been great because he's actually been porting some games. Or one, you guys are getting 609 support too, which is something we've been trying to push for on the CoCo side. And also you're getting games that you never saw in the Dragon before. So it's like a double win.
Interesting. And this is mentioned by Mikey in the live chat, saying, I would appreciate a demonstration of the features and how to use the DOS Plus extenders, because it's not quite foreign to us CoCo users. I would agree with that. We're not going to have time to do that on this show, but that's probably a note we should take for a future discussion, because there's a lot of these Dragon peripherals that us Yanks don't know about, like the Dragon MC, or there's a Dragon product that's similar to a CoCo SDC, but it's not quite the same. There's the Moo product, handful of products that we kind of know they exist, but we don't exactly know how they work. And we couldn't speak intelligently to that. So that's something on a future episode. If you guys want to come in and just tell us what some of these peripherals are and what they do, and just do a little demonstration of that would be brilliant as well.
Yeah. And Perez said he will come on to the show, when he has some time to actually devote. I think we'll just have to do a full interview with him because he's done so much. That's a show by itself.
Right. And another person I'd love to get on would be the Guillaume Major, who runs the Color Computer Archive. Talk about a guy who's just provided an invaluable resource for the community.
I have contacted him before, and he's a bit leery about it because he said his English isn't too good on the speaking side.
Okay.
Neither is ours.
Ours. Yeah. So, neat stuff. Well, Pere Serrat, we salute you. Thank you for all you have done. He did mention he was going to be in a really bad spot for broadband, but he might try to be able to.
Yeah, I think he's next door to you right now, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm in a bad spot for broadband right now, so I can feel your pain. Next up on the list, if you want to spotlight Richard Harding for us, Mark Bosley.
As soon as I can find him.
And a lot of people on the panel today. Is he spotlit? Because I can't see you sharing the screen, so I don't know who's who right now.
I'm working on it. I'm sorry. Who am I supposed to be doing again?
Richard Harding.
Oh, he moved as soon as I was pushing the button.
He's waving there.
There we go.
There.
I think I got him now.
There we go.
All right. Welcome, Richard.
Hi. Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody. So, I guess it's my little spotlight. I have no idea what to say. Okay, first up, there was a question earlier to Duncan. It was talking about Dragon DOS. I've had a quick rummage through my stuff, and the original source for Dragon DOS was done by Microworks, R. Rogers, R. Lentz, A. Phelps, on behalf of Dragon Data, and then later on, it was taken over by Vivaway, who also did a lot of other stuff for Dragon Data, and that was A.J. Poulter.
Quick question before you go on there. Microworks, is that the American company Microworks? Because they did a lot of 609 stuff even before the CoCo.
It's Microspace Works with a K.
If Andrew Phelps is one of the developers, I think that is the same company that we're used to. They did one of our assemblers here.
Yeah, there's something very interesting in the source code. Is EQ, and it's 0 for Dragon and 1 for color.
Okay, yeah, I think it is the same company. Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, it probably is. It probably works on both the machines. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. My brother got a Dragon, and that was early '83. Well, it was supposed to be Christmas '82, but if everybody knows Dragon history, as ever, there was no Dragons for sale for Christmas, so. We had to wait until January, and he got his Dragon in '83. The thing is, when he first got it, I was like, oh, Dragon, okay. And then he started writing little games and stuff on it. Just basic stuff, going up and down, shooting little bullets. And I thought, oh, all right, this is really cool. I'm getting into it. And then, I would start like, give me the manual. I want to read the manual now. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. And then it sort of got, and it's like, well, now I need my own Dragon. I can't use my brother's because I'll never get on it. So for that next year, I was sort of in computer purgatory, grabbing the time when I could on his. And like everybody else has mentioned, there was like, the BBC. I mean, there was quite a big scene in the UK. If we go back to, there was Oryx, the TI-99 made it. The Spectrum was obviously very big, but I just couldn't, in any way envision myself sitting in front of a Spectrum and trying to code anything.